Hello and welcome. So today is my last day in training for the FMWC All-Star Battle. If you've been following along lately, if you haven't, then don't worry about that. But I thought today would be a good day to try to tackle Knights and Warriors, which was the challenge from the final round of the FMWC Open last year. Um, and it's fair to say this one is quite difficult. But that's why I thought it would be a good one to try and finish on. So let's have a quick look. Basically, the idea is we're trying to model a battle between two armies. So each army has a certain number of knights, infantry, and archers on each side. Each of those three has certain properties. So, a knight has 100 hit points and can do 30 damage. Infantry have 30 hit points, can do 10 damage. Archers have 20 hit points. They can do 5 damage shooting or 3 damage attack at close range, which I'll explain in a little bit. And so 6 different levels. The first 2 levels are just kind of calibration, making sure you can do the calculations. Then you've got level 3 is the first one where you simulate a battle, but just infantry, then infantry and knights, then there's this first strike advantage thing, and then the last level introduces archers, which by the time you've read through it, you'll realize is by far the most complicated piece. So what are the rules? They have the same types of units. Your model assumes the battle takes place in a series of turns. So every turn, each army kind of launches a series of attacks. Obviously it's a little unrealistic, it's a model, but so the idea is, if I have 10 people over here and you have 6 people over here, I sort of launch 10 attacks, you launch 6 attacks, then they all land and a bunch of people are killed. Nobody is killed kind of intra-turn, so your attacks during this turn don't reduce my attack power within this turn and so on. So that's why this is emphasizing at the beginning of the turn. So all the damage initially goes to the infantry, then to the knights, and then to the archers. So it gives an example. If the Winsian army does 1,000 points of damage to the Lobenian army, these are the two countries, Winsia and Lobenia, then 33 infantrymen are killed to get to 990 HP, and 1 is wounded. So he'll go from having 30 HP to having 20 HP. And then for the last 2 levels, if one army is small, i.e. less than 200,000 total hit points, and the other army is not, then the small one gets to have a first turn where they're the only ones attacking. So they do like a surprise attack. And then it carries on kind of the normal way. And then archers are, like I said, much more complicated. So after you've destroyed all the knights and the infantry of the opponent, the archers are still left. The archers are at a distance, so they can't be attacked immediately. So the knights miss 1 turn. So after, on whatever turn the infantry and knights of the other side are finished off, on that turn the knights can't do any damage to the archers. They kind of ride along quickly, and then they can attack them on the next turn. The infantry take 2 turns to get there before they can deal damage. But your archers can shoot arrows as far as they want to, so they deal damage as usual, not limited by that distance. And then here's the other twist: as soon as enemy knights or infantry approach the archers can't shoot anymore. So in other words, they won't use their bow at close quarters, they'll take out their knife or whatever. And so they go from, that's why this thing here is saying they can do 5 damage when they're shooting, but at close range they can only do 3. So once they're kind of put upon, then they lose that shooting power. All right. I'm not going to run through all the levels at the start. I'll just explain them as I get to them. So, like I said, the first 2 are just sort of calibration. So let's dive right in. How many HP does the army of Winsia have at the beginning of the battle if they start with the following number of units? So 10 knights, 30 infantry, 20 archers. And we'll just quickly double check. Knights, infantry, archers are listed in the same order here. So for this one, we can just say I'm going to take some product of the number of troops times the number of hit points, and as you can see, one is vertical, the other is horizontal, so we need to put a transpose around that, and we want to keep this reference here locked as we move down, so I'm just going to highlight that, press F4, and that gives me my numbers there. And I'll just put that in here and make sure it reproduces 2300, and it does. And similar to some of the ones I've done before, I've set up my own kind of dummy version of the score sheet here, so that tells me, okay, good, I've got level 1 out. So let's move on. What is the maximum damage that the army of Winsia can deal to their opponents in the first round of the battle? Now this one is actually trying to be helpful with the calibration because the way this is set up is a little weird. So I'm just going to put in another column here for now, which I'll call max attack, because the maximum damage they can do is when the knights and the infantry are attacking, but the archers are not attacking but shooting. So that's why you've got this, but then this, rather than either one of these columns. So that's the small adjustment to make there, but once you've done that, it's basically the same idea as the others. So we're going to take the sum product of that with this, and again I'll lock it in, and I will transpose it. And we'll copy that down, and again I'll just check that it matches the example, and it does, and I got the score, and I do. Okay, good. So then we can go on to level 3. And so from here on, we're basically looking to model battle. So, up to here we've just got, one side, we're just trying to calibrate. So now it's battle time. So we've got armies on both sides. And one of the hard things about this challenge actually is that there was only one example given for levels 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that was actually an example of level 6 difficulty, which meant it could be a little hard to calibrate on the earlier ones. But anyway, we won't worry about that. So again, I'm going to need to spread out into a little bit more space here. So let's do that. So first thing, I'm going to have a game picker, and let's just start with example 3, because that's this one here. So then I'm going to want to take my Winzia troops. So I think the way I'm going to do this, I'm just going to color code for the different armies. So this is going to be, Winzia will be blue, and this is the number of units. And then I'll make Linia or whatever they are orange, and this is their number of units. So, and then turn, let's just list 20 turns for now, and we'll go from there. So the initial number of units is going to be an X lookup of this, looking into here, column B. Now you'll see there's some merged cells here, so that immediately turns into B to P. So we'll just change that back to B to B, and then returning from columns D to, move that out of the way, D to F. So $D $F. And that's my numbers there. And then for the other side, instead of D to F, it's going to be H to J. So H to J. Okay, so then the next thing I'm going to want to do is convert that into how many hit points. And then I'll also think in a second about damage, but let's just start with hit points. Also, I'm noticing these are merged, and I wouldn't waste time on this in the actual competition, but for all the merge cells haters out there, I count myself among you. I'm going to unmerge and center across selection. Why didn't it center across selection? There we go. So that we don't have merged cells, and now we can select a column without it selecting 3 columns and other fun things like that. So then we're going to take this, multiply by the number of hit points, which is up here, and again we're going to transpose on that. And that gives me this. I'll just put my comma separator there. Okay, so that's my number of hit points. And now for each of these, I'm going to make this, the first row formula, I'm just going to make different from the rest. Because if you look at the logic, the way it says, if this infantryman is injured, he's got 20 HP instead of 30 HP, but you count, I know where it's gone, but it says here anyway, you count the total number of units at the beginning of the turn. So there's that wounded individual still counts as a full unit. And so that's why it's not actually that useful to count units during the battle, because you need to knock off hit points, and so you need to figure out how many hit points are left, because that's the thing. The number of units, let's say you've got 30 units and then you do, I don't know, 10.5 units worth of damage, you got 19.5 units, then you do another 10.5 units worth of damage, you're down to 9. It's the change in your number of units, because this is still going to be, it's going to go sort of 30, 20, 9, you're going to have a discontinuity there. You'll go down by, by 10 one turn and by 11 another turn. which it's just easier to keep track of it on the hit points. So let's think, what else do we need to keep track of? Well, let's just do damage. Oops. Dealt. Taken. Oops. Now, let's see. So archers do different amount of damage depending on whether they are close or not. So I'm just going to put in a flag here for enemy close. I'm not going to populate it yet. I'm just going to say it's always false, because right now most of the first few levels there are no archers, so the enemy being close is not a relevant concept. And then do the same thing over here. So then I just want to pull in the damage. So if the enemy is not close, then we'll be doing that much damage for each of these types of units: 30 for knight, 10 for an infantry, 5 for an archer. And if the enemy is close, well, the enemy only gets close if the knights and the infantry are all gone, but in the infantry, not inventory, can't even tell I'm a financial modeler. But anyway, okay, so now the damage dealt, we can say it's going to be some product of number of units times, if the enemy is close, then close range version, otherwise the non-close range version. Close, close, and then I just need to lock in this, lock in this. That can be relative, that can be relative. Okay. I'll copy that down. Don't worry about that for now. Yeah, that's fine. And then, sorry, I need to. That to be red. And then damage dealt here. Should work the same, good. And then taken. I'm doing dealt and taken separately. I didn't try this before, but I think it's a good idea. Because that way I can have as few crossing references between the two as possible, which I think is helpful. So in other words, any formula over here that refers to the damage taken can refer to the taken column in this block, and then I can copy that same formula over here, and that can refer to the one in this block. And so as many as possible of the formulas between the two blocks can stay the same, and hopefully the only one that will have to be different will be this taken one, which refers to dealt in the other block, and kind of everything else hopefully will refer to within the block. So now I have my damage taken, so we take 675 damage. So I'm going to say this will be the max of this minus this and 0. And so the infantry absorb all the damage. And then here for the knights, I'm going to say if this equals 0, because the knights will never take any damage as long as there are infantry left. My God, infantry left. So I'm sorry, just keep an eye on my time. So if that equals 0, then it's going to be the max of this minus the damage taken plus add back any damage already absorbed by the infantry. My God, it's really becoming a tick now. Otherwise, we just keep their health the same. And then the archers, I'm just going to say stay the same for now, and I'll come back to them when I get to dealing with the archers, because they're complicated. And then this part, I'm just going to say round up this over transpose the hit points to 0 decimal places. So here I lost 22 infantrymen. So I'm going to copy that down, and hopefully all these refs will work themselves out in a minute once I have the appropriate formulas copied over. So fill that in. That's looking good. Knights have been allowed to go negative over here, which is not good. Is that 0 the max of Oh, yeah, okay. So I put in a max formula and then I didn't put in the second argument to say the max of that and 0. So not my finest hour, but okay, that'll work. Um, so, so then I think we have done everything to model levels 3 and 4 at that. So let's just take a look at one from level 3. We start off with 2 infantry versus 1 infantry, and the battle ends very quickly with 40 HP left on this side and 0 HP left on this side. So let's just do this. We'll have W ending HP, L ending HP. So this one is going to be the sum of these. The reason that I'm picking them both up separately is so that I can do a check, because it's possible that the battle is not yet over when I get to the bottom here. So now I'm going to say if the min of these is 0, so if some side has been defeated, then give me the max. Otherwise, give me error. And that'll tell me I need to come back and add more rounds. Right now I've only got 20, maybe that's not enough. So then let's do sequence. And the nice thing about this one is the question you need to answer, how many hit points remain for the winning army, is the same for levels 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I can just have one, thing here. So sequence, I'm going to want 80 rows starting from 21. And then I'm just going to data table this. So data table, again, mentioned this before, but it's just saying take each of these 80 different values, put them into my column input cell, which is going to be this game picker over here, and then tell me what this cell becomes in each of those scenarios. So I'm going to hit calculate, and then let's take these. So hopefully this will get levels, the first couple of levels right. So I'm just going to do an X lookup of this into here. I'm not worried about the errors in any game where there's archers, because I haven't taken any damage from archers at any point, so that definitely would not work at the moment. So let's just look at levels 3. Oops, sorry, I did copy. I meant to do paste. 3 and 4, does that work? Yes, 3 and 4 are working. Okay, so now to get to level 5, all we need to do is add this concept of the first strike. So that, I think, should be a pretty easy one. So first I'm just going to sum the HP for each army. I'm going to say, is army small? I'm going to say that is defined as what? Lower than 200,000. So this is less than 200,000. If this was a financial model, I would absolutely expect that 200,000 to be in an assumption cell somewhere, but competition mode, so I'm not even thinking about that, except I am, obviously, because I'm stopping to talk about it, but you know what I mean. So first strike, question mark. Now, we just need to check if first strike is applicable. How am I going to do that? I guess I can look up the level. Let's do that. So let's take this formula, and the level is in column N. So I want to return from column N. So this is going to be game number, is going to be level. So I'm going to say if the level is greater than or equal to 5, then if this army is small, if and this army is small and the other army is not small, then I get a first strike. So I don't need an if it's just that, and otherwise false. So here I'm saying you don't get a first strike. That makes sense because you're both small. And then we'll just move this over here. Actually, you know what? Better to do this is flip this around. Nope, I'm going to confuse myself if I do that, so just carry on. Okay, so this time I want it to be not the opponent. So if your opponent is not small and you are small. So now let's find one where there is a first strike. So that starts at game 61, 81, I think 5, yes. So here there's no first strike. 62. Okay, so here there is a first strike. So I'm just going to change the damage dealt thing to say if the level is greater than or equal to 5, then if you have a first strike, carry on an attack as usual, otherwise 0. Sorry. So if I want to say if we are greater than or equal to 5, meaning first strike applies, and you do not have a first strike, realize it's getting a little convoluted, then 0, otherwise attack as normal. And that's only going to apply to the first turn. So yes, this one does not have a first strike, so they're zeroed out. And then we'll do the same thing over here. I think I can actually copy this. Let's see. So if, oh, sorry, this part I should have locked in, but I'll just, actually, no, I want to be able to spend a bunch of time working on making it so that the logic would copy over, so might as well fix that formula and copy it over. So if the level is greater than or equal to 5, and if we don't have a first strike, then 0. Otherwise, it's either a first strike not applicable, or we do have a first strike, then some product, all that, and away we go. So let's just go back and see what that looks like in 61. Okay, so in 61, I'm actually zeroing out both first turns when I want to zero out neither, but in this case, I'm only interested in knowing how many HP are left at the end, so that doesn't matter. So I will take that, and let's see if I now have correct answers to level 5. Ooh, partially, but not completely. That's unfortunate. All right, let's take a closer look. Okay, well, that was some pretty stupid debugging. So a quick one on this. I have a calculation setting to recalculate automatically except for data tables, because sometimes data tables can really slow your model down because you're running everything 100 times. But of course, if you're going to do that, it's very important that when you make a change in your model, you then recalculate so that it flows through. So okay, that was really quite dumb of me, but never mind. Okay, so now the last level, and this, you can see I've already had, 20 minutes of my time. This is having looked at the problem before and had time to think about it and whatever. My chances of getting through, level 5 in the next 10 minutes are extremely slim. So like I said, this was a very hard problem. And I don't think either of the guys got level 6 out, although it seemed like Andrew got pretty close. But anyway, let's see if we can figure out the archers. So first things first, we got to think about what damage can be done to archers, because knights and infantry initially can't attack archers. The way I'm going to handle that is I'm going to have a distance from archers for each unit type, and that's going to start off with 1 for the knights, 2 for the infantry, and 0 for the archers. And the archers will just stay 0 forever. And then the knights and the infantry start moving closer as soon as there are not knights and infantry in front of the opposing archers. So let's just go back to a game that has archers and do the example one. So here I'm going to say if the larger of these two, or the sum, either would work fine, is equal to 0. So in other words, if there's no troops in front of the archers, then I want to reduce this by 1, and obviously never go below 0, so I'm going to say max of that minus 1, comma 0, and otherwise I want to leave it the same. I'm going to do basically the same thing here, except obviously pointing to the cell above it. Copy that down, so you can see on this turn, so during this turn, the last of the knights here are knocked out, and so on this turn, the knights can then start attacking the archers, and on the next turn, the infantry can start attacking the archers. So that's how I want it to be. And then let's do the same thing over here. Sorry, yep, but this one is referring to the other side, so I do need to be careful. So if I'm max of these two is equal to 0, then do that. And same here, the max of these two is equal to 0. Okay. Fine. And you can see in this battle, again, because I've set it up so that right now archers never take any damage, everything else is eventually killed, and so eventually everyone is close, but that's fine. So now what I need to figure out is, oh yeah, so enemy close is now going to be, I guess I'll use sum ifs. So I'm going to sum the number of units. Yeah, it's only knights and infantry that can be close range. Archers will always be far away. So the sum of those where this is 0, and that's going to has to be greater than 0 for the enemy to be close to the archers. So we're saying it never happens here, and that makes sense. And then same thing over here. I'm going to say sum ifs the number of units, knights and infantry, that are 0 distance away from the archers. And sorry, I want to say that is greater than 0. And these guys should get close at some point. Yes. So on this turn, the knights first get close, and then they remain close until on this turn all the knights and infantry have been killed. So there's none left. Okay. So then the next thing we want to do is damage to archers. Now there's a subtlety here about exactly how does it work on the turn where you first finish off the infantry and archers, and there's the case does come with an example, an extremely detailed example. Not sure how helpful that would have been on the day to try and wade through that, but I did look through it, and it turns out that on the turn where the knights and infantry are finished off, you can assume that all the damage of your attacking knights and infantry are applied to them first, and so any damage from the archers that you don't need to finish off the knights and infantry gets applied to your enemy archers. So we're going to do max archer damage. Well, do dealt. Max 2 archers. So what do I want this to say? I want it to say it's going to be that some if some product again. So it's going to be yeah. So it's going to need to be how many units times how much damage, depending on whether you're near or not, times whether they are close. So I'm going to say sum if this equals 0, then this. Let me think. You can only be attacking the archers if everyone else is out of the way, and therefore they can. So I don't need to worry about the enemy being close, because the only enemy units that can be close are knights and infantry. And if I'm in this situation, then there are no knights and infantry left. So I only need to worry about that one. Lock that in. Sorry, this times that. Otherwise, 0. Sum that up. So here I have, that doesn't look right. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have 400 hit points, but I have 20 archers, each of whom can do 5 damage. So the most damage that I could do to the archers would be 100. I'm going to copy that formula down, and then I'm seeing obviously here there's 0 damage dealt, but 100 to archers. So I just need to add this condition here to account for if we're in the first strike zone. And then let's see, can I copy this formula? I think I can copy this formula across. I'll just have to look a little carefully. All right, here again. Column widths and formulas and values. Okay, so let's see. Is it pointing to anything on the other side? No. Is it pointing to anything out here? No, it's all within its own side, so that's good. Yep, okay. So that's the most damage that you can do to archers. So now, finally, we need to figure out what damage actually gets done to archers. So, what are we going to do? We're going to say if the min of this, so if either the knights or the infantry are still left, then the archers are not hurt. Otherwise, what happens? It's going to be the archers. So I guess it'll be, yeah. So I'll take the max of two things. So one is going to be the archers minus the total damage dealt, and then add back any damage already absorbed. So add back that minus that, and add back the previous knight's HP minus the current knight's HP. So that's one way to think about the damage. So basically all the damage that the other side was capable of inflicting less what has already been absorbed. And then the second way to think about it is the archers minus the maximum damage that can be done to archers, which is this. And that might be a lower number. And then the third possibility is that both of those go negative, and so it has to be max of that and 0. Complicated formula. I think I got it right, but we'll soon find out. Okay, and then we want to do the same thing on the other side. There's going to be some crossing references, but let's see. Boom. Okay, so all these R and S and T all stay the same. AK is AK and AL are the ones that are wrong. So let's just quickly check what those are supposed to be pointing to. That's X and Y, which is max to archers and taken. Oh, hang on, I shouldn't have been pointing to taken. Sorry. So that should have pointed to the local version of taken, not an array formula. This is certainly going to be one of my less entertaining videos for the regular Joe, but hopefully the hardcore, modeling lunatics will enjoy watching me battle the beast. So max 2 archers, is that one there? All right. So then let's see where we end up. Well, we don't end up where we're supposed to. For example, 3. Oh boy, you have to watch more crappy debugging, which is not much fun. All right. Okay, so after a little bit of time spent debugging, I realized that where I've stuffed up is this archer's health reduction formula. So I'm just going to try and do this one from the top one more time, a little carefully. But I mean, it'll give you a sense of just how fiddly the logic on this can get. This is what makes this problem hard. So here I'm going to say if either of these is positive, then there's still a buffer in front, so the archers take no damage. So you just keep that. If there's no buffer and there was already no buffer on the previous turn, then that means that the knights and infantry did not absorb any damage on this turn. So if the max, so if there were already no knights and infantry in front, meaning that max of those two is equal to 0, then we just take archers health minus all the damage available to archers, which is this one, max to archers. And we're going to want to take the max of that and 0, so we can't go negative. And so then the only thing we need to deal with then is the transition case, where the knights and infantry are absorbing some, but possibly not all, of the damage. So in that case, we're going to say the max of the starting health minus some amount of damage that I'll figure out in a second, max of that and 0, so it doesn't go below 0, and close out. So what is the damage that the archers absorb in this case? Well, it is the smaller of either the total damage available for archers, which is that guy there, or the total damage taken minus the portion that's absorbed by the infantry and by the knights. So that's going to be minus starting infantry health minus the ending infantry health, and minus the starting knight's health minus the ending knight's health. So what is this very complicated logic here saying? It's saying so the only way that this one is less than this one is if I need not only all the damage that can't hit the archers to finish off the knights and infantry, but if I also need some support from the archers. In that case, the total damage minus the amount absorbed will be less than the damage available to the archers, meaning the enemy archers will have used up some of their firepower on the knights and infantry, and so the damage available will be less. So I think I've got that right. We're supposed to get a value of 519 on this example, so we'll find out pretty quickly when I drop it in. I just need to fix these two references that went across to the maxed archers, so they need to point, instead of AL, they need to point to L. Copy that down, and we get 519, good. And then if I recalculate the table, we get the rest of the case out as well. Okay, so I don't know exactly how long this video is going to end up being, because I'm going to obviously try and cut out some of the time I spent debugging, so it's not completely tedious to watch. But I will tell you that the true video length, or the true time it took me to do this, will be a good bit more than the length of the video. And yeah, I mean, my sense is my experience just now is very similar to what happened to Andrew when he was solving this task during the live competition. He did quite quickly got through levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and had something on level 6, and was kind of flipping over and back to this kind of very long-winded written example, trying to figure out what had gone wrong. But it's so intricate that any little nuance can kind of kill you. But anyway, so it wasn't exactly the triumphant tackling of this case that I was hoping for, but I got there in the end anyway. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I guess if you're watching this when it comes out, then within a few hours I'm going to be doing my my live battle. So wish me luck. It'll be extremely embarrassing if after all these training videos I then get knocked out in the first round of the competition, but it can easily happen. These things often do. I'll try and be philosophical about it. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.